Hello everybody and welcome to the building of a custom vivarium. This is going to be the first video and I'm going to go over the basic building, planning, and rough carving of your foam 3D structures and background. Just to go over a little bit of the vivarium. I'm not really going to get too much into the carpentry. As you can see, I already got some built. This is going to be a 6 by 2 by 3 foot vivarium, so pretty large. It is constructed out of melamine. As you can tell, this isn't your normal melamine with the white coating. Where I'm located at, that's about $50 for a 4 by 8 sheet. So this is uncoated melamine at about 20 bucks, and this is uncoated. So what I've done is I coated it myself on the outside, or I'm sorry, on the inside, using silicone, obviously on the edges, and then I use Mod Podge, which is a non-toxic water-based sealer. So you just paint on a coat with a paintbrush and let it dry, and it'll seal up basically just like your normal sealed melamine, and a $30 per sheet saving. Since this is so big and it's not the normal 2 feet tall, it's 3 feet tall, you know, I needed an extra sheet. So we're going to do a full 3D enclosure. So if you're doing this, it's much easier to work on an open face tank and before you start putting the bottom and the tops and everything on. So for the planning stages, there's a lot to think about depending on what type of reptile you're keeping. This is going to be for 2 juvenile uromastyx, and it'll be big enough for when they get full grown, hopefully around 14 to 15 inches. We're going to have 2 basking spots, about 7 hides, and a dig box. So we shall begin. I already pre-cut and basically made everything. I'm just going to put it in so you can kind of see how it goes together. The first thing I'm going to be putting in is a dig box, and all I did was basically build a frame like you would a wall out of 2x4s, and then I had a piece cut out for the middle framed up, and then I overlaid it with a piece of 1/4-inch panel board. So when we put it in, you can see it fits right in there. You have a piece cut out and framed on the back side. Like I said, it's just standing framed up 2x4s. So we got about 3.5 inches of depth. And that's going to be our box. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to do right now, we're going to silicone the edges, and I'm going to seal this top board and the 2x4s with that Mod Podge, you know, just in case any moisture does get in there. Your mastics are desert, so there's not going to be any water in the cages. And the main reason I'm doing this is, you know, I want them to have something to dig in, so it's not all, you know, hard surfaces. They can have some fun. It also gives a different temperature gradient and a different humidity range for them. So lots of hides, different levels and different temperatures and different humidities, so they can self-regulate themselves. Alright, so after we put the dig box board in, pre-cut a piece of styrofoam, or this is 3/4 inch, and as you can tell, I've already cut, or not cut, but marked with a pencil the outline, so I know where my box is. So I'm not going to cut this right now, but what we're going to end up doing is probably cutting this into 3 sections all the way through, basically into thirds. So when I put the side pieces and the bottom pieces and the glass and everything, I can take it out and, you know, hose it down once a month or so. Okay, so when planning, it's very important to know your lizard's needs and what you want your vivarium to look like. The main reason I made this 3 feet tall instead of your normal 2 is I don't want to see any of the lights. So I wanted to look as natural as possible. So no bulbs, nothing like that. So I needed more room to work with to get to the heights that I needed. So for Uromastics, I need their UVB bulbs, which I'm going to have two basking spots, one on the left and one on the right, and the cool spot will be the middle. But my UVB bulbs need to be 12 inches from their basking spot. And then my basking bulbs, I'm using halogen floods, will be about 17, 18 inches away to get to that range of about 135 degrees. That's what I need. So you need to think of that when you're building your structure. Also, you need to think about how wide, how long the basking spot needs to be. I'm trying to go for about 14 by 14. Obviously, it's not going to be a perfect square because we want it to look natural. My side on the right side is going to actually be a little bit smaller, but that's okay. So I'm going to start visualizing what we need. And the first thing I did build, I mean, you don't have to do it this way, is the center hide. It's going to be at the lowest level. It's going to cover this, which eventually there will be a small hole inside so they can go down into the dig box and then come back up. And then this will be cut almost in a, an oblong circle so we can lift it up out without having to take everything out, just to see, if the substrate needs changed or anything like that. So here's my actually completed piece. This is the only completed piece I've done so far, just because I got bored the other night. So this is going to go almost basically center. Okay, so as you can see, this is constructed out of 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch styrofoam that I got from Lowe's. It's not the best shaping styrofoam. It's not as dense as your higher qualities, but it'll get the job done, especially if you're on a budget. This is $10 for a 4x8 sheet, whereas you're getting the other stuff, you're paying $4 for a 12 by, I believe it's 22 sheet. So I got this built up, and you basically just do it in layers. You start with a top piece, and I'll show you the inside. Start with the top piece, and then you basically just add legs. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be pretty, and you just build it up. And what I use to glue, a lot of people use different things. There's actual foam spray, cements, you can make tacky. I use Power Shot. I got some right here. You can get it at Lowe's. Just use it with a caulk gun. So Power Grip. It's easy, it grabs really well, and then you just let it dry overnight. So when constructing, after you get your main thing down, you want to obviously break off your edges. You can use your thumb, you can use a knife. For everything I've done to this point, and what I'll be showing you in this video, is done with just a knife and my fingers. We'll get into, the more advanced tools like the hot wire knives and the routers and stuff later on when I do my actual background. For the plant, if you're going to do heavy duty plants, what I usually do is I get a small piece of 2x4 and I drill a hole through the middle, stick the plant in, and then I build the styrofoam around it. Okay, so this is my middle hide. This is actually going to service two hides. You're going to have yours, the hide right here that runs all the way through. They can get through from the back or the front, and then you're going to have your hole so they can get down to their dig box. All right. So when envisioning, the rest of your structure, you just want rough cuts. I'm going to be using mostly 2-inch foam for the rest of this, just to get a rough idea of how I want my Viv to look. So I was talking about the lights, I kind of got away from that. So I'm going to have 18 inches of glass. All right, so this roughly is about, from the top of the styrofoam down here, is going to be about 5 inches. So I have a 5-inch piece here. So I basically need 18 inches from the styrofoam up is where my glass is going to be, and that's where it's going to be visible. So the lights can be, you know, basically right there and higher. And I'm actually going to build the styrofoam up to about 21, 22 inches, just so you don't see that edge. And then, you know, it looks like it keeps going. So if my lights are going to be at 18 inches from the bottom, I need 6 inches for a basking spot to give me that 12-inch difference for the UVBs. Okay, so that's my goal. So 12 inches, obviously, we got 3 2-inch pieces of styrofoam. Now, for my bottom piece, I'm going to try to do about 2 to 3 hides each in each of the cold or the hot sides, excuse me. So as you can see, I got a basic square piece of 2-inch styrofoam. I cut a little hole in it to make the hide, and I'm going to put that right in the corner. This needs to be over some. Put that right there. So I got that piece in the corner. Now I'm not going to glue any of this right now, because like I said, this is just a rough fit. But when you do glue, like here's the second piece. Just put basically the first piece down, traced it with a pencil. Oh, traced it with a pencil, and then, you know, cut it out with a steak knife. And yeah, that's what I use. I use a steak knife. So I put the second piece on, and as you can see, you already have the start end of a little cave. Now these are the 2 pieces you're actually going to glue together. When you do these, you want to make them in a like a jigsaw kind of way, so you can remove them for later on. So you can take it out and clean it. And then my third piece was already cut, as you can see. Did the same thing again. And for these, you know, basically I just traced them. I made some indents for a bridge we're going to do later on. So there's your first pieces. Alright, then we come to our other place. I'm going to do basically the same thing. I have pieces cut out. This time I'm going to do a hide in the middle. So I have my piece of styrofoam. It's going to come in there. It's going to sit right in there. You know what I usually do? I just get a long piece of styrofoam, lay it out kind of, and then just do a rough carve for the first one, and then the others will fall suit. Here's my second. Got the cutout for my hide. Stack it on top, and the top piece. Okay, there we go. Alright, so as you can see, we kind of got something going together now. I already created 4 hides, 1 on each of the hot sides and 2 on the cool sides. Alright, so for this middle part, like I said, you're going to get strips. Basically, the same thing. You can use your scraps and just kind of piece it together. It's very important to remember that it is not important to get this fitting perfectly. You know, you're going to have cracks and gaps, and that's perfectly fine. This is just going to be your rough section. Okay, so we got a piece to go right here. You can see how I made the bridges. Now this piece that I'm doing isn't going to glue to the side pieces, because I want to be able to take it out, the whole thing. So I just want it, you know, to have overlap, so when I set it on there, it just has more strength. Alright, build the rest of this up. Another piece. Another piece. Alright, and we'll do one with a ledge. Okay. Alright, so now you can see it starting to come together. Now this is all very simple. No detail work yet. And if I can do this with one hand, I'm going to do some of these hides. So basically what I got here is a corner piece, not a corner, just two pieces. Let's stick them in there. Now you got your hide. Put that on there. Alright, then I believe I had it set up for another one. So this one will go another high. And like I said, these side pieces, they might make it into the final product. They're just so I can get an idea, you know, of what it's going to look like before I put everything together. So here we got more pieces. I'm going to cut out little circles and half circles basically to fit on there and give us, you know, like kind of what we're going for. Alright, another piece I've cut out. And that's basically it. You're going to just keep building and building and building until you get, you know, to where you want to be, how high you want it. You know, basically all depends on you. So I got a couple more pieces for the hide over here that I've cut out. How do I do this? Okay. So move these over. Sorry, I'm trying to watch this and the camera and everything else. So you build them in. Alright. More pieces on top for another hide. Do a double stacked hide over here. Okay. So as you can see, it looks pretty rough right now. But what else is going to happen? There's probably going to be a natural rock stairway that comes down here and wraps around. I want to leave as much of this flat as I can. This is going to be the basking area. You know, so when I have my lights up top, I can get down there. And the same with over here. I don't want to add too much, you know, to that flat area. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to glue these pieces together. And it's very important, like I said, like when you're doing three, you don't want to glue all three of these together because you're not going to be able to get inside of your hide and, you know, put your foam coat or your grout and your paint and your sealer and all that. So I'm going to glue the bottom two together, same on this one, and then that's when we'll foam coat it and we'll do the whole sealing process and everything. And this will just lay on top of it. The same with this. These two pieces will be a structure, and then these two pieces will be a structure, and so on and so on. This back wall will be a structure. So once you get it all glued together, if you don't have like the hot wire knives or the routers to put the different designs and stuff in, you can do what I did down here. You just take it and you break pieces off with your thumb. You want to try to get rid of all straight lines. You want to get rid of angles. And you just want to make it look as natural as possible. There's some other great videos on YouTube. So that's it for this video. I know it's pretty long, but when you go in your planning stages, the key things you want to make sure you do is you know your heights and your light heights and the distance in between that you need for it to be safe for your animal. And you know how many basking spots you need. This is 6 foot. It's going to house 2 full-grown lizards, so I definitely need 2 basking spots. And have fun with it. You know, just start placing pieces. It doesn't have to look pretty. You know, the pretty part comes later, and that's just as easy too. As you can see, once I get it completely built, I'll probably have another bridge and a couple different levels over here that come around. And then once I get that part, everything built, what I can do is I stick my styrofoam behind and I can trace out, what's not covered, up to 22 inches. And that's how I'm going to do my background. I'll probably do just a normal faux rock background, either a sandstone style, or I just might do like a rock face style. I'm not sure yet. But alright, thanks for watching, and look for the second video, and we'll get into more detail. I'll see you guys later. Thanks. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the second video of building your own 3D vivarium. Alright, so as you can tell from the first video, I've got a lot of the detail work done. I did make some changes on each side. I changed the two top hides a little bit, which you're going to come across once you start your carving process, just to make everything fit better. I added this little almost like rock bridge, and I added some rock stairs as well. Now, just to show you a bit of how the jigsaw part works, so you can take everything out. You want it to look like one piece, but obviously come apart. And the way you can do that, I used a hot wire sculptor, just take chunks out. When you put it all together in blocks, you just want to continue from one piece to the next, so it all looks continuous. So as you can see, like this bridge, it'll come right out, as well as this middle hide. And so you can see I also cut my hole and my shape, so I can lift that up. Like I said before, there's going to be sand or a mixture for a nesting box. Alright, and sorry, this piece is in 3 pieces, and the reason you don't want to glue it all together is that you have to be able to grout or use foam coat and seal the bottoms, and you're never going to get that if it's not, if it's all glued together. So this top piece comes right out like that, and you can see the size of this hide. It's more of just a corner piece. You probably really won't do sleeping in here, but they can get away from the lights if they want to. And then the second piece, as you can tell, is this whole top piece right here. And from that, you can see the size of this hide, which is a pretty decent size. This piece is different. Since my hide is on the bottom, I glue all this together basically. So the only part that's not glued on is this top piece. And what I did, I wanted to make a nesting box, just in case down the road I decide to breed these guys. I have different spots for it, and this is deep, so it'll give me more humidity. And all I did, excuse me, was take a cheap $1 cooler I found from Dollar General. And you can see it's, I believe, 11 inches deep, 9.5 inches long, and 7 inches wide. So it's on the smaller side. It'll be tight for them, but it's just another place to dig and to lay. And as you can tell, this is all one big solid piece. So the next step is to do my foam coat, or your grout, whichever you decide you want to go with. If you don't want to order foam coat, I've used grout before, works just fine. Foam coat just tends to get in the the cracks and the crevices a little bit easier, and tends to need a lot less coats. I usually do about 3 or 4 coats of non-sanded grout, and with foam coat I usually have to do 2 coats. So I'll put this back together. Now, the one thing I did change, which I don't know if it's going to be more or less work for me, is the background and the sides. So once I had all this stuff in here, I realized, this is going to be a lot of stone, a lot of the same color. And honestly, it's going to be a pain in the ass to do. To carve a rock wall that goes all the way up, it's just going to look a little awkward. It's going to look too much of the same. So instead, I believe I'm going to try to paint a desert sky. As you can tell, I tried some red just to see, since I already sealed it, if it would stick, and it looks like it'll be fine. So on the third video, I guess, if you see a sky, it's a success. If if you don't, well, it might be a little longer, and I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do from there. But all the tools I got were from the Hot Wire Factory. And they have a really cool supply. I have a whole bunch of different products for for coating your foam, or adhesives and stuff like that. So very easy to use. And so that brings me to an end of this second video, much shorter than the first. Just wanted you guys to get a general idea of basically what it's going to look like before we go to coating it. Alright, and I'll see you guys during the third video. We'll either do the background or some of the coating process. Alright, guys. Alright, hey guys, I went with painting, as you can tell. This is just going to be a short video. Just wanted you guys to see what it looked like before I started my foam coat. As you can tell, it doesn't go all the way up. None of that line is going to be visible anyways, since I'm only going to have 18 inches of glass. But this is what it looks like. It looks actually better than I thought. I was going to do a more detailed painting, but being that it's wood, it really soaked that acrylic paint up, and it didn't really blend that well to try to do individual clouds in a more like 3D background. But sometimes you just got to work with what you got. Side note, I had a real pain in the butt. If you decide to paint, when you do your corners, make sure you don't use a clear silicone like I did in the beginning, because it will not paint over. So what I had to do, I ended up applying some white power grab glue over it, letting it dry overnight, and then painting it white. And then the final detail I added was, the rest of the plants. Got them into position to see exactly how everything will look. And then some of these, like the branch, I might take out. The others, I'm probably just going to get a Ziploc or saran wrap and wrap them up in it and tape it, and then grout. And the same thing with the painting. So here it is, a finished painted background. Actually not finished, I still gotta put a coat or two probably of sealer on it. Just the regular Mod Podge, which you're going to be using to seal your actual foam as well. So, alright, on to the next video. Hey guys, and welcome to the grouting stages. So what we have here are the pieces all taken apart, and as you can tell, I've already put, I believe this is going to be my third coat, so I've already put 2 coats on some of these. These are drying right now. Now, a lot of people say different things for their mixture of how you want to, have your consistency. So when I do my grout, especially the first couple coats, I do it really thin. You want it to be just a little bit thicker than water. This stuff's going to dry really quickly, and it's also going to get thick in your bucket quickly, so don't be afraid once it starts to thicken up to go add more water and mix it. On these big pieces, sometimes I have to mix it or add more water 2 or 3 times before I'm completely done. And you just want to put a nice thin coat over everything, getting into all those cracks and filling the holes. And that's one of the main reasons I use a thin coat. It just seems to get into everything easier. And also, once it starts getting thicker and you paint it, you're going to get a lot of those brush lines, and you don't want that. So just put it on and then scrape it off. I'll probably end up doing 5 or 6 coats of grout, non-sanded grout, before I do the painting and the sealing, just to make sure that where everything's glued together. As you can see, like lines, like you can see this line right here. You know, I don't worry. 2 different pieces have been glued together. I want to do enough coats to where you're not going to see those lines anymore. It's going to look like one full piece. So, not a long video, just showing you kind of what it looks like and the consistency I use in mine. Okay, and then when we're done with this, I'll go over some of the painting and the sealing, and we'll have a completed project. Alright, until the next video. Alright everybody, welcome back to the next part. I got all my pieces covered in grout and dried, about 4 coats. Now I'm on to the painting process. Now, as you can tell, I've already started on a couple pieces, and they look really good, right? So this is actually pre-painting. So for all the small and deep crevices, what I do is usually use really cheap acrylic liquid paint, and for the crevices I get a really dark color. I usually mix some black and some dark brown and some red or burgundy in there, and I just roughly paint in all these cracks. Now most of this, you know, isn't going to be seen in the next step when we actually use a spray bottle and paint over it. But the stuff really, you know, deep down in the cracks, it'll stay, you know, dark brown, and it'll look like, you know, there's cracks in your actual wall. So it's obviously not going to look like this. It'll look a lot better if everything turns out correctly. So just use a small paintbrush, get in there, and then we'll go into the next part, which all you really need is a cheap spray bottle filled about halfway with water, and then the rest of it filled with your different types of paint, whatever colors you want. I'm going for a really dark burnt red for this project since it's desert. So I usually do layers, so less water on the first layer, more paint in a darker shade. Then if you want to do a second coat with the spray bottle, add more water, lighter colors, so when it dries, you know, it won't cover the dark, it'll have a translucent effect. The more layers that you do, the more hand painting, you know, the more like real rock it's going to look like. Some people just, you know, do a solid coat and let it be at that, but like I said, we want to do it a little bit more customized. So I'm going to finish these cracks, and then we'll head outside and use the paint bottle. Alright, see you guys in a bit. Alright, I just sprayed the first coat of paint on. This was the mixture. Now, as you can tell in the picture, it looks purple. Dark burgundy, and that's okay. Like I said, this is the first coat, and we want it to be a dark coat. Just wanted to show you some of the details of where we painted black. You see how it's covered up. It doesn't look, you know, like it did, but it'll stay in the cracks and emphasize the cracks more. So, like I said, after this dries and I do all the pieces, what we're going to do is add, last time was about 50% full of water. This next time it'll be about 75% of water, and then we'll add more color, or brighter colors, brighter reds, and some yellows in there. Like I said, when you're doing these, to make them look more realistic, you want a lot of different layers, a lot of different colors. And it's always easier to obviously start with your dark colors and then work your way lighter. So once this dries and I do all the pieces, we'll do a second spraying. I'll see how it looks, see if I like it. If I think it still needs more, we'll do a third. And then after that, we'll go into the hand painting details with highlighting the different rocks to give it, you know, a couple more layers as well. Alright, so until the next video. Alright everybody, now that I've got my pieces painted, I put 3 coats on, and like I said, you do the coats, you want to start with your darkest, you know, mixture first with about 50% paint and 50% water. Spray it on, give you a really nice base coat. Then your next mixture, you want it to be a little bit lighter, more water, so when you spray it on, it's more translucent. And then same with the final coat. So it's kind of hard to tell on camera, but there's a lot of different variations in the color. Like I said before, the black that we painted on is almost completely gone. The only way you can really tell is when you look at it, you know, the browns are a little bit darker in the crevices. And that's really all we wanted, just to give us a little bit more depth. Now I'm going to go into the hand painting process. I got this from lizard-landscapes.com. That's where I got some of my tips and tricks from. So for this part, we're going to be using a fan brush. I'm not a painter, so I don't really know the name of it. If it's incorrect, please forgive me. But just a really thinned out brush. You can buy it at any hobby or paint store. Okay. So we're going to have our brush, paper towels to wipe the excess paint off, and then our paint mixture. It's right here. So you can tell it's a little bit lighter than the painted project as it is now, and this is going to act as highlights, and we're going to do layers of these highlights too. So starting with this one, and then we'll probably do a layer of mixed yellow, and then a layer of like a suede, almost a white, a little bit off. So I'm going to try to do this with one hand, just a little portion of it, so you guys can see how it's done. And then we'll come back after I get it all completed with the first coat. So what you want to do is just want to get a little bit of paint on both sides of your brush, and on your paper towel you want to wipe almost all of it off. You want it to, so there's barely any paint left on your brush, and then you're going to lightly go over your rock. Now what this is going to do, I know it's hard to see, but it's going to, all these crevices and uneven planes are going to pull the color out of your brush, and you don't want it to be, you know, really thick or anything. You just want to barely be able to see it. These are really, you know, your small, minute details that, you know, your end product, you're going to see a more realistic and lifelike rock. You know, you don't have to do this, obviously, if you're happy with the color of just, you know, your spray, and you can skip this step and go straight on to sealing your project. But I like to do these on all of mine just to give these rocks a little bit more depth and realism. And once it's all complete, you'll definitely be able to see the difference. So like I said, this is really hard with just one hand, so I'm gonna get on this, do the whole thing, and then I'll show you an after video of what it looks like once all this is pulled out. Alright guys, stay tuned. Alright, I got the first coat of highlights on. I know it's really hard to tell with this camera, but I'm going to hold up another piece so you can kind of see a comparison. Here's one piece that's done. There's another piece that's not. As you can tell, the piece that's done is a lot lighter. And the more you use, the more it's going to look like a worn rock effect, which you want. It's going to look a lot better in person. So your first coat, which is going to be, just a shade or two lighter than your base coat, you want to put a lot of highlights on. Make sure you don't overload your brush. You have to wipe it off every time. This took about 15 minutes to do the whole piece. And you want to emphasize, your corners. Every corner you want to make sure there's a good line of highlight on there, so it shines and it's going to look worn. It's going to do the work, what you built with all the edges and with the grout. What's the word I'm looking for? The texture. It's going to do most of the work for you. You just want to go over it and over it and over it until you get a good base coat. Now remember, you can do this a lot more with this first one because it's just a little bit lighter. We're still going to put 2 or 3 more coats of highlights, which are different colors. They're going to be lighter, so you're going to need less of them, and it's just going to emphasize, a couple pieces here and there to make it more lifelike. Okay, so I'm going to finish up the rest of the pieces with the highlights, and then I'll come back and we'll do the second and the third coat, and we'll show you a video of how that looks, and hopefully we'll be looking a lot more lifelike. Alright guys, I'll be back in a bit. Alright, so now we've moved on to the sealing process. Now when I seal, I usually do about 4 coats of watered down sealant. So what I do, you just get your spray bottle. I add about half Mod Podge and about half water, maybe a little bit thinner, just depending. Give it a good shake, and you're going to spray it on. When you're sealing, make sure you give yourself quite a bit of time so you can work on your project. It's not going to be like the grouting where you just, you can lay the grout then leave and let it dry, especially with this watered down sealant. So the reason you water it down is so that it can easily get into all the little cracks and crevices, that thick sealant's going to be, have a hard time getting to. So when you spray it, you want to take just a normal brush and you want to get rid of any puddles. And the puddles are going to keep forming throughout its drying. You just want to keep going and removing the liquid, wiping it on a paper towel, searching for any more. Because if this puddles, when it dries, it's not going to dry clear, it's going to dry opaque, and you're definitely going to be able to see it, and you're basically just going to ruin all that hard work that you just did. I mean, you can still use it, it's just, you're going to be able to easily see and tell, that mess up. So continuously throughout the drying process, just take your brush, look for those puddles, and just wipe them off. Like so. I know this is probably hard to tell in the video, so I'm going to do another piece. Also, you want to make sure that your pieces are elevated off of whatever surface you're doing, so it can drip down. So if it doesn't, and you have it flat on the ground, obviously when you spray it's going to drip down and it's going to stick, and then when you lift it it's going to tear, and it's just going to cause a whole bunch of problems. So make sure you're elevated. As far as the inside of our nesting box, you know, I'm not too concerned with buildup. You're not going to see it, and you know, the thicker the better. This is going to have the most moisture in it out of the entire project, so it's not really a big deal if it, you know, piles up or puddles up in there. Alright, so what you're going to do, we'll do this piece right here. Just want to get your spray bottle, good shake, and you're going to give it a rough spray down. You know, as you can tell, it doesn't have to look pretty. You just want to get a good amount on there. And then afterwards, once we're done spraying, everything, a good amount. Hi guys, and welcome to the last video. I want to apologize for the video on the sealing process. Either I think I ran out of space and it just kind of cut off, and then kind of just stopped doing the videos. After reviewing them, I realized they weren't that good. A lot of bad camera angles and such, but hopefully you guys, you know, got the gist of what was going on. Just to recap from that last spot, after I did the spray sealing, I took the regular unwatered down sealant, really thick, just painted it on with a brush, doing the same thing, making sure you got no puddles. And then I coated it with wash play sand or non-toxic sand. You can find a color that matches, you know, your base coat mostly. And then just spray it on and let it dry. So I've got a lot more done. As you can tell, it's basically a completed project. Waiting on the glass, should be here in 2 days. And all I gotta do is install that and then put on some trim and paint it. I don't know if I'm gonna show that. What I also did, I added all of my lights. I don't know if you'll be able to really see since they're not on, but I have my UVBs and daylight and some halogen floods for my basking spots. I'm going to turn these on, and what I ended up doing is adding a switch box. So I have one dimmer, and then I have, this is going to actually be for the spotlights, and then I have for the day light and the UVBs, you know, so I have more control. The reason I put the dimmer on is this heated up really quickly. You know, I turned it on and I was going for 135 degrees, and within about 5 seconds I was about 150. So I needed a way to control what my lights would look like. So you can tell, flip on the basking lights, and as you can tell, I can, you know, put them at how bright I want them to be. Then have the daylight, and then lastly the UVBs. So this is basically it. This is the finished product. Like I said, all I got to do is add the glass and then make it pretty on the outside like it's pretty on the inside, and then put the sand in my dig boxes. But just to get a general idea of what it looks like. And once again, I apologize to everyone for the camera angles and the long-winded explanations. I know it looks a lot different from that first rough cutout, and you'll find that as soon as you start, you know, your detailed carving, you're gonna add things, you're gonna take things out, you're gonna see what works and what doesn't work, and it'll, you know, just flow together eventually. Like I said, the most important parts are, you know, your distances, what you need them to be for your lights. You know, everything else, you know, you can basically make how you like, just as long as you get those, you know, core fundamentals down. So this is it. I'll just do a slow pass through. of everything. This is the dig box that we made, or the nesting box, and come down to one of our hides down here. The middle hide, I'm going to lift up with the dig box underneath. Got our staircase to our upper hide over here, and our middle hide down here. Alright guys, I don't know if I'll be posting another one. I might. I won't be on this full video since it's already really long, of probably just me putting the kids in here and letting them enjoy. Alright, thank you everyone for watching, and hopefully this helped you out some. Until the next project, bye.